Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a nested grid view. That means in the grid view a row is expandable and collapsible. Okay, so let's create a project. Let's say nested grid view. Create the solution. So I'm going to use waveforms. I'm not going to show you the authentication. So for this simplicity I'm just creating a simple project and I will be adding one grid view there. Okay, so by default we have a page which is default SPX. I'm gonna use that SPX page. Okay, so we do not need these default contents, but we may need one more content placeholder, so we can create it here. Like we have here this content placeholder, so I need one content placeholder in the head section, and I want to give the name or ID for it as a head content. So in my default page I will have two content placeholder. One is head content, another one is main content. Okay, so what I need a grid view. From data I can add that grid view. Double click or drag and drop. In the grid view, what can I do is I can give the grid view name as GB grid view customers. And by the way, I'm going to use the Northwind database, so I will have customers, and customer has list of orders. You can see this is our customer properties and this is our order properties. Okay, so in the orders table you can see that we have customer ID. Okay, so that means we have a relationship between them. Okay, first of all what I can do is I can give a grid view name, then I wanna give data, oops, it should be here, data key name, which is in our case it will be the customer ID. Okay, so customer ID is our data key name. Then we can specify the width, which is 100%, and we can say oops, grid lines none. We don't want any grid lines over there. So let's go to our columns. Our column will have few data bound, like data bound, bound field, right? So data field is our customer ID, and we can say header text. is, let's say, ID. Okay, so similarly we can create few fields like customer ID, customer name, which is basically customer, then then address, let's say city, then country. These all the fields will come from our customer table. You can see customer ID, name, then what, customer name is basically contact name, address, city, and okay. Alright, so we need the another grid view inside of this. Whenever user will select or click that row, it will expand. That means it will add one more grid under that row. So we have to add another template field, and we can say even we can add one more field this way, like we can say phone number. Okay, we will be adding phone number over here, but at the same time we will be adding a grid view also. So what can we do? We can display a phone number here. Okay, and this will create a new row in this position, my new row. So this is a basically method, so I have to create that method in the code behind. Okay, and I will show you. So after that, in that row, basically what I am going to do, I am going to display another grid. Oops, like grid view. Okay, and I am going to give the grid view name as orders, run it server. Okay, so similarly we can add few properties for this grid, like with equal 100%, then grid lines equal none, auto generate columns false. Okay, and data key names equal, in this case it will be same customer ID. Okay, and we will have few properties, I mean few columns over there. I'm just saving some time, so I have added previously and I'm showing here. So I have one ID which is customer ID, order date, and I have the date format string over here, and shipped date, this is also date format, then ship name and ship city, and if you want you can add more fields as well, whatever you want. Okay, so this is our design for now. Now let's go to the our code behind. So first of all I have to create this my new row method. Okay, so go to the view code. In the view code, first of all in the page load event I can say if page is post back. If this is not a post back, I want to bind grid. Okay, so I have to create that grid. So how can I create? It's a private method, we don't need to return anything. Bind grid. So in the bind grid, basically what I have to do, I have to call my service. From the service I have to extract the data, then I have to display to the grid. Okay, so for this demo I'm going to add only the repository instead of going through what service layer. Okay, let's say customer repository. So till now I don't have that repository class, I have to create it. Okay, so customers equal customer repository dot get customers. Okay, then what I have to do, I have to display that I have to display that data to the grid view, which is just I have to add as a data source. Then I have to bind the data. If you don't bind the data, it will not display into your grid view. Okay, so now what I have to do, first of all I have to create this class. So I can create that class, right click, oops, okay, customer repository. Okay, so in the customer repository I have to add that get customers what get customers your method. Okay, so if you want to add pagination, you can pass the page ID and page size through there. For this simplicity I'm not going to make that one, or even you can make it like I want to display page 1, and in the page 1 I want to display 10 records. Okay, so what I can do, I can create that method. Okay, so if you click here and if you create this one, it will create your method. If you go to that method, you can see that integer p1 and integer p2. So I can say this is my page ID. Okay, and I can set default value like 1. Okay, this is my page size. If user don't specify, it will be 10 by default. Okay, so what I have to do, basically I will return what? I will return list of customer. Okay, till now I don't have that customer object. So what I have to do is I can use what edu.net entity data model. Okay, I want to give the model name as Northwind entities. From database I'm gonna select that database. So my server name is my name, my first name. In your case it will be, it depends on your server name. I have to select the database Northwind, and I can say Northwind entities. Okay, then you can select the tables, or if you have any other views or anything, you can even select. I want to select all the tables, it depends, but for this demo I only need customer and order. Okay, then finish. Okay, so this is our EDMX. You can see that customer has order. Okay, you can see it is infinite. That means customer may have multiple orders. Okay, now we have our customer entities, a customer model. Well, so what I have to do is now db is our new Northwind entities, and our, how can we get our customers? db has customers, and I want to order the customers by their what, contact name, or you can say customer ID. Okay, so what are those IDs? Let's see. IDs are basically alphanumeric. Okay, so I want to display by customer ID, or you can select customer or contact name. Here contact name is basically customer name. Then what? Then I want to skip page ID -1 into page size, and then I want to take page size. Finally I want to return as a list. That's it. Finally return those customers. Okay, so if somebody pass page ID 1, that means 1 minus 1, that means 0. 0 into page size 10, that means 0. So for the first page it will skip 0 and it will take 10 records. For second page, 2 minus 1, 1 into page size 10, that means 10. So I will skip 10, first 10 records, then I will take next 10 records. Okay, so our customer repository is ready and get customers also ready. Now what else? So if you look back to our grid view, we have our grid view customers, and inside of this grid view I have another grid which is grid orders. So I have to populate these grid orders as well. So how can I populate this grid order? Well, you can see I have a method my new row which I have to add. Okay, so what I can do is I have to create that method in the code behind, which is basically will return a string value, and method name is, let's say, my new row. Okay, and it will take customer ID as parameter, and it will return this string, which is basically closing td and closing tier. After that it is creating another tier, that means another row, and that's it. Okay, so this is, that means what? It will be easy once I populate the data. Okay, so I will explain you when I will display the page. Okay, so now what I have to do is I have to create what? I have to create the event like on row data bound. So in the on row data bound, what I have to do is if that row is data row, I will take the data key from the grid view, then I will query the what? I'll query into customers repository and I'll get the order for that customer ID. You can see customer ID equal grid view customers and data key is basically I will be getting accordingly row index. So I have the data key, you can see, which is customer ID. That means I will get customer ID over here and I will pass that customer ID to the repository. So I have to create that method. Okay, so what I have to do is it is basically customer repository and I have to create that method in the customer repository. Okay, so it will basically return list of what? Orders. Okay, then so what I have to do is similar way new not doing entities, so orders equal db dot orders where customer ID equal our customer ID and what? And take whatever you want. Let's say I'm gonna take 5 records or all of them to list. Finally return orders. Okay, so for this demo perspective, basically I am calling the repository from my page code behind, but in your real time application probably you will have the service layer like web API layer, service layer. So I skipped that layer here because of timing, it will take more time. So I hope you will follow the standard procedures. Okay, so till now our page is ready for displaying data. So let's run the page. Okay, now you can see that data is now displaying, but it has some formatting issue. Let's see why it is happening. So we have to add one more property like auto generate columns false, because it is creating some columns here like those columns. Now let's see. Yep, so these are our data, this is my customer and this is the order. These are the orders. Okay, so customer orders. Okay. Now we need to collapse these orders into the customer. So whenever user will click this row, then it will expand the order, otherwise these orders will be collapsed. Okay, now this is our next target. Okay, for this case we can add one more template like a button or any sign like plus minus. Okay, so I'm going to use one button, or you can use image or link button. Okay, so I want to add that button as a button default. So what we have to do is, first of all I have to check, yeah, bootstrap is there. So default, then glyphicon, plus. So if you go to the component, bootstrap component, you will see you have glyphicons. I wanna use this plus and minus, so this is basically the class name. So what I have to do is, I wanna add the plus, then on click I wanna call one method like what, toggle what, toggle grid panel. Okay, and I wanna pass data like this, that means this button, and I wanna pass what, the row number. So our row number is basically customer ID. So this is our customer ID. Okay, and we can close the button. First of all I want to see how it is showing. Yep, you can see we have our plus buttons over there. Okay, so plus button is there. Now we need to collapse this grid view. So go to the my new row. You can see I have added one class here, collapsed row. Okay, so I have to add CSS for that. Style, type, text, and that class name is basically collapsed row. So I have to add that class name, then I have to add the CSS for it. Basically it will do like this. That means it will not display, and there should not be any padding or margin. Okay, now let's see. Refresh the page. Yups. Now you can see that our order list is now displaying. It is collapsed, although it is there. Okay, those items are there, but it is now collapsed. Now if I click this plus sign, I need to expand. That means I will display that orders, and if I click again, I need to collapse back again. Okay, so for that, what I have to do is I have to create this function in the script, like JavaScript. Okay, so our function name is toggle grid panel, and it will take this one, that means this button, and the division. So here I guess you are confused about this, the second parameter. So second parameter is our basically our div id or row id. So every time we are creating a new row and we are giving that row name as, you can see, id equal t customer id. Okay, and we are passing that tr customer id, tr customer id. So we are passing tr that customer id. Okay, so this is basically our that row id. Okay, so first of all we have to check the current division, like current division, that means whatever the selected division has css display. So what I have to check, if current equal none, that means display equal none. That means what? That means that orders grid is now collapsed. So if it is collapsed, what I have to do, I have to display. Okay, so how can I display? jQuery that div, that means that row, or we can say it is that row. Instead of div, it will be more meaningful. Okay, that row dot show. Okay, else if the situation is that it is not none, that means it is already displaying. So what I have to do, I have to collapse the same way, that row dot height. Okay, now let's see if it is working. Well, it is displaying. If you notice, it is displaying, but again there is a post back is occurring. So I have to restrict that post back. So how can I restrict that post back? Basically, that's why I am using return statement, and I'm returning from here false. So it will not go for post back. Now let's see. Yups. Okay, so the customer details and order details. Okay, now I want to change that icon, that is the icon whenever it is displaying, I want to make it minus. Currently by default it is plus. Okay, so what I have to do is, for this I have to remove that class and I have to add the minus class. You can see that button, first of all remove class. Which class? Glyph icon dash plus. I have to return this, I have to remove this class. Ph glyph icon plus. Okay, then I have to add the class which is minus. Okay, similarly whenever I am hiding that grid, then I have to return back to the plus. So what is this? On that case I have to remove the minus and I have to add the plus. Now let's see. Yep, now it is minus, it is plus, it is minus, it is plus. Okay, so that means what? Now our grid is now expandable, or you can say nested grids. Inside of a grid there is one more grid. This is called nested grid. So sometimes it looks very easy and even it is also very easy. Only what you need to do is you need to handle the JavaScript code and what? And you have to bind the data in the row data bound. So I'm binding that orders in the row data bound. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, but I didn't cover the pagination in that case, so you are only getting the first 10 records, but I don't have that next, previous pagination option. So you can do it by yourself, or I will create one more tutorial for the pagination. Before closing this tutorial, I want to explain that my new row method, it is basically closing the previous tree and the previous row. After that it is creating one more row. Okay, so that means what? If you inspect this is our current row. Okay, after current row I am closing this row which is basically this td. It is adding after phone. You can see after phone number I am adding that string which is this one. So first of all it has closing td. After closing td I am closing that record also. That means the whole record, this whole record, the customer record. Okay, so it is also from here the closing tier. After that I am adding one more tier. So we can see after that I have tier. Okay, and I'm giving that ID name, ID equal tier and customer ID. So it is also coming from here, ID equal tier with this expression means it will take the first argument, first parameter, which is our customer ID. Okay, and I am passing that customer ID from the grid from here. Okay, I'm passing the current customer ID to that method and it will return this string. It is basically closing the 3D and closing the tier. After that it is creating one more tier. That means what? One more row. Yep, you can see if I click here, you can see that the whole tier it is creating. So if you go in details, then you will see there is one more table. The table, you have all the fields like order ID, order date, shipped on, ship to name, city, etc. Okay, so this in this tutorial, this method is really helping to create our nested grid. Okay, so I believe you enjoyed this tutorial. If you like this tutorial, don't forget to subscribe this channel. If you have any difficulty or if you face any problem, please write in the comment box, and you can share this tutorial for others. Thank you so much, and I will be adding this source code in a blog site or some other pages, and I will be giving you the link. Thank you. Have a good day.